Andrew Mwansa. Now, Innovation Africa is Africa's largest ministerial summit on education and technology. Zambia is hosting the first Innovation Africa Summit following the pandemic, and this year's event will focus on Africa's digital transformation. This is the 10th anniversary edition of the summit, which will be an historic occasion and is being held under the patronage of the government of Zambia, and President Hakainde Hichilema will be hosting this particular event. We take a break. Glassey is one of the world's leading business minds. He holds degrees in economics and has a keen interest in astronomy and astrophysics. With the ability to connect private sector investors to public sector decision makers, his annual Innovation Africa event has become the continent's official ministerial summit. John spent over 15 years working in global trade and investment before setting up a network company under his Brains brand. This led to the setting up of projects like Arab Brains and African Brains. His summits have resulted in investments worth over $500 million for the region in the last few years alone. And this year the event will be hosted by Zambia. Attending the event in Lusaka will be companies valued at over $2.3 trillion alongside policymakers from countries representing the education and technology needs of over 1 billion people. John solves problems by bringing people together, and he has previously set up the Global Online Learning Alliance to support the development of online teaching. This focus on education and innovation is what led him to develop Africa's ministerial summit called Innovation Africa. He is a visionary leader who retains a humble approach to his work, believing that the story of Innovation Africa is more important than the story of John Glassey. Despite this, he has earned the trust and respect of companies and governments across the globe. Now on Diamond TV, particularly on Costa, we join our very own Minister of Education, Honorable Douglas Siyakalima and John Glassey in an exclusive interview to discuss and analyze education and innovation. Honorable Douglas Siyakalima, it's an honor to be with you on the program.
Thank you, Andrew.
John
nice
Glassey,
to be with you.
John Glassey, it's an honor to be with you on the program.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you to your audience as well.
Well, you could be part of the conversation by calling us on the number that will be reflected on your screen, or you can alternatively give us a text on our Facebook Live feed. Our Facebook page is Diamond TV Zambia. Now, very excited, of course, that this particular Innovation Summit will be hosted by Zambia for the very first time. Let me begin with you, Honorable Douglas Siyakalima. What does this mean for Zambia?
Well, what it means, Andrew, is that Zambia is getting to be known in the world. It's a great opportunity for us to showcase of what we're capable of doing, because this summit will have so many people coming from the breadth of Africa. So we're expecting more than 40 countries to participate. And again, you can just imagine, and because this is the very first summit which now people are linking up post-COVID-19. So many lessons as we go, we realize that COVID actually disturbed us, as we shall be analyzing as we go forward. So for us as a government, this is a tremendous time for us just to meet various people who are coming, like you stated earlier. So for government, this is our interest, and we are hoping that by the end of the summit itself, we would have gotten a lot of things in line.
What is with the particular interest in innovation and education for you, John?
How it started, you mean? That's a good question. I've worked in Africa and the Middle East for over 20 years. I worked a lot in post-conflict areas, and I think it was around about 2009 we had I've worked in places like Sudan and Iraq, and around about 2009, after working involved in the Comprehensive Peace Agreement in Sudan, post-conflict areas like Iraq, it was quite exhausting work. And we had a program running out of Nairobi, and lots of young people were working. I had around about 20 young people in the sort of 18 to 25-year-olds working with us. And I said to them, I said, what are you guys up to? And every single one of them said they're doing computer studies, computer sciences, all of that. And I said, well, oh, great. So you've got some fantastic opportunities for your future jobs, because you need these And you think now that's, well, where are we? That's 13 years ago. And the world, even in the last 13 years, has changed hugely in terms of the digital transformation all over the world. And I said to them, I said, you've got great futures then. And they said, well, no, it's not that easy to get jobs. We might get the qualifications, but what are the jobs available, and how can we ourselves create those jobs? These are, as I say, young people in their 20s. And it just got me thinking, okay, there's such a close alignment here between, I'm a strong believer that education is the silver bullet, the silver bullet that cures inequality, poverty, and for sustainable development. And that opportunity, along with the changing world, the fourth industrial revolution, and the digital transformation, that Africa has this opportunity to leverage. We've seen an era where the West and the Northern Hemisphere has had its industrial revolution. In the last 30 years, we've seen that growth in China and the Southeast Asian tiger economies. But where's next? You know, China has slowed down even as economically, and it is my belief, it's my strong founded belief that, well, 70% of the next billion people born on this planet will be born on this continent. And this is where the growth, the action will be. And I will admit, I have to be straight, back in 2009, I was as passionate about it then as I am now. But it has been a little bit slower. But in the last 4 or 5 years, I think we're really seeing the pace of change here in countries like Zambia and on the continent.
I'd love to hear it from you, Minister, responsible for education. The past decade, how would you describe the status of how we've, revolutionized from just being dependent on chalk to now speaking about innovation? Now we're speaking about technology. Suffice to mention that the president also set up the Ministry of, of Technology. How would you describe how Zambia has evolved the past 10 years from where we were to where we are now?
Well, Andrew, what I can say is that, like John said, I think the pace has been too slow. All right, this is why we are now gathering literally everybody so that each one of us learns something as a continent. So I may not really say I'm happy or satisfied. I'm not satisfied. We still need to do more, and we need to catch up. I always say that Africa, including Zambia, we lagged behind the agrarian revolution. Came the industrial revolution. We are not somewhere. Now the fourth revolution is about technology. We are also still scratching on top. But I think, like you have said, the president has now formed a separate, if you like, Ministry of Technology and Science, whom we dovetail ourselves from education. So for us, it is education for innovation. You educate people so that they also now start being innovative, to create critical thinkers, a critical mass. And you can only do that if on one side you are imparting skills in the kids, on the other one you are making them do science. Okay, we call it STEM: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So these are the things, some of them, that we are trying to come up with innovations. How do we catch up? As you might be aware, many of our rural areas, there's no connectivity. So the people who are coming, Microsoft, we met Microsoft when we went to the United Nations, the vice president of Microsoft. We had a one-on-one, and they are coming here as well. So it means that the interest which was, if you like, the president, because he also met a lot of people at the United Nations. So we're excited. Yeah. We want to catch up.
Well, I know Minister said that we are slowly catching up. Obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic has forced us to evolve, especially as Africa. Now we are speaking of e-learning. We are speaking of e-commerce, and literally all transactions are now being done online. From the past decade, for you, John Glassey, what have you observed about Africa? Is it the fact that we hardly want to connect to change, or perhaps we are slowly moving towards change, especially when it comes to embracing the use of technology?
Okay, thank you, Andrew. I can give some of my observations, but the best observations are what I hear from Africans themselves, work both in government and industry. In terms of the fourth industrial revolution and the technology, just the general view of that is there any point in a Zambia or another African economy trying to quickly compete in the secondary industry sectors such as steel making or textile industries, where, again, are you going to compete with Bangladesh, for example, in making clothes for Nike, where they're so cheap and it's very difficult? There's an opportunity here to leapfrog the secondary industries, and that's the digital transformation. You can go straight from, obviously there's huge natural resources in the primary industries, but you can leapfrog to the fourth industrial revolution without having to build huge factories. What you've asked in terms of that transformation over the last 10 years, and I'd refer to some comments I've heard recently. You mentioned, Andrew, at the beginning there about the Global Online Learning Alliance. We formed that at the beginning of the pandemic, and we all, what are we going to do? Was the world over? It's not unique anywhere. We were all shocked. It was a massive shock to the system. It was hugely disruptive to education systems. And as a organisation where we bring governments together to remember, innovation is not just about being an inventor or being technical. You can have innovation in government policy. And for the last 2 years during the pandemic, we had a lot of African ministries of education and ICT. They come together, talking on Zoom, online, discussing solutions, how they can deliver the continuity of education, particularly the challenge of delivering educational materials to rural areas, and using all the various resources, not just online, but TV and radio. And we heard some great innovations, you know, between teachers doing a lot of work, students being motivated to make things happen. It did mean much greater involvement of parents in education like never before. But one of my favourite comments, it was by a man called John Kimoto from Kenya, who designed contributed a lot to the design of the competency-based curriculum in Kenya. He was head of educational media for the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. And he said on one of our meetings, he said, I must admit it, this is at the beginning of the pandemic, we should have done in the last 10 years what we now need to do in the next 10 weeks. So there has been, the rate of change hasn't been as quick as one would have hoped, but maybe the silver lining of the COVID cloud has been that shock to the system to get everybody to, right, well, we now need to build resilience into the system, so the next crisis comes along, we're ready. And I believe that mindset and sentiment is in place now.
Well, Minister, I'd like to find out really what this government is doing, the government of the Republic of Zambia is doing to enhance, development through innovation.
What we have actually been doing now, or maybe let me just start with our investment ourselves is to our people. And if you check what the President has been saying, is to give every child a chance to go to school. And government is doing that. Because first of all, you need to have children to go to school first before you even think of innovation. It is school itself that will make them become critical thinkers on the way. So if you check, he also had to put teachers in the school. So that is where we are beginning from. So once we do that, and then we invest in technology, then we'll take off. Like John said, we don't need to lag behind this time around. Every investment must be for that kid who should now be a critical mass of thinkers. That is where we are headed.
Minister, you spoke of the fact that over 40 countries, will be in attendance, for this particular summit. I'd like to find out how the summit is going to help find solutions to our homegrown challenges.
Now, when you bring such a mammoth summit, that is how you start now learning from one another. What worked what can work best here, who has done this. So many companies are coming here. So it is a showcase. So when you meet like that, you are sharing ideas. And that is how innovation sometimes comes. We also have young people who will be showcasing, about 23 of them.
Yeah, we have a young innovation hub as well.
Yes. So we have innovators, but we need to help them. How does government come in? How do we make their new ideas being realized and then to solve our own problems here?
Despite this particular summit, for you, John, how do you think Africa could deliberately set itself aside to begin to innovate through technology?
Okay. Before I answer that, can I just quickly contribute to the Minister's last answer that you asked, Andrew? Firstly, it's not a conference in your traditional what I call death by PowerPoint presentations. There's none of that. In fact, apart from our hosts, there is no speeches at all. There will be in the mornings, it's Wednesday to Friday next week, there will be panel sessions, and those are the ministerial ones sharing their experience, the Q&A format, sometimes asking tough questions. What are you actually doing? When are you implementing? When does the project start? But all of that stops at lunchtime during the event, and the afternoons converts to meetings based. So there's around about 60 meeting roundtables. They are hosted by the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Technology and Science, Smart Zambia, Ministry of Commerce and Trade here, and then all of those visiting African ministries, which are Education, ICT, Science and Technology. And they sit there hosting meetings with some of the companies you've mentioned, the Microsofts, the Intels, the HPs, Cambridge Education. And it's those bilateral meetings, over 900 meetings will take place during the event. Now, they don't all end up in outcomes, but those engagements will ultimately lead to, you've mentioned over $500 million of partnership and investment we've witnessed in the last decade. That is, that's an outcome of the summit. So I hope you don't mind just answering that question like that.
Very important.
How does Africa especially innovate? I would say actually it's too generalised a question just for Africa. Africa's a big place. People easily forget that. And every country has its own speciality, has its own uniqueness. You mentioned I have an interest in astronomy. I just actually did a second degree in it. And I was delighted a few years ago that when the global community, I can't remember the amount of money, it's around about $20 billion, had to choose where to place the Square Kilometre Array, the SKA. This is a huge array of telescopes that are the equivalent, the radio telescopes, and they're equivalent of making 1 square kilometre of surface area of a telescope. And what you can see in the distance is proportional to your telescope area. And the decision was between South Africa, with other Southern African countries having antenna as well, or Australia, which was hot favourite. And they gave it to South Africa. And Zambia's involved, and other African countries are involved. But what does that mean? And it's in the Northern Cape. They've got the clear skies and the perfect setting for it. So then you've suddenly got University of Western Cape. You've got Cape Town University. You've got the universities in South Africa. Now they're part of that project, and they're innovating, and they've got this. But they have to educate the young people to have the skill sets into that. So equally, you'd look at very different scenarios, I would say. Say, let's pick a country at random. Niger, for example. This is a country on the edge of the Sahara Desert, the Sahel. It has, its natural resources are mainly, I think, uranium and that. But if you've got a country like Zambia, very fertile country. We've had the rains. Look what it was like yesterday. So a real breadbasket opportunity here at Zambia. A fantastic opportunity to be an agricultural hub. Zambia as well has a huge opportunity as hydropower. So be it electricity, increase electricity supplies to the region. Then there's the geographical position of Zambia. I know it is the passion and desire the Honourable Minister here and his colleagues in Cabinet and the Head of State to make Zambia an ICT hub. You've got a brand new airport, you've got new facilities. This could become a regional hub for ICT innovation. And if you are one of those international investors like Microsoft or Intel or HP, and you're going to decide, where do we go? Where are we going to base ourselves in Africa? And Zambia's, you put all of those ingredients together, then there's an opportunity. But that would be very different in Cote d'Ivoire. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to generalise, but the opportunities
But I know that the Minister did speak to the fact that you cannot innovate, minus being educated. He mentioned that, education is a prerequisite for innovation. But I'd like to find out from your perspective, John, on what you think about the link that is between education and innovation. And ask like this because we have seen not so much investment in the education system, in the education sector, not only in Zambia, but up until now, when there's money that has been put into the education system to ensure that education becomes free, but other African countries are still struggling in terms of how much is being pumped into the education sector. What is the link between innovation and education?
Okay, I know the answer to that in a general sense, and I think the Minister should answer that in a specific sense. The Minister did touch on it when he was referring to the evolution of the curriculum here. Just winding back on innovation and the changing of the curriculum. This is nothing new. We have school systems, doesn't matter whether you're here in Zambia or in UK, which are based on the Victorian manufacturing model. We go in the morning, we're set in different departments, different grades, we're a conveyor belt of kids, the bell rings and it all stops. And how do we learn? A teacher stands in front, show and tell, and there are lots of blank staring faces trying to learn. It's changed now. And we knew that long before the pandemic, that the education systems need to change. What do they need to do? They need to have more collaboration in schools between students. It's amazing, when we were kids at school, you say, don't look at somebody else's answer, don't look at questions, but when you go into the real world, you're told to collaborate and cooperate. But you've got to do it on your own at school. Okay, what else is there? Critical thinking, communications, problem solving. These are all very different to foundational. I'm not taking away the important writing, reading, mathematics, foundational learning is critical at the young ages. But it's very important as young people go through the school ages that, and teachers' roles will change as well, that become with technology more than just telling, if you've got so many online resources, not just telling the kids of a bit of history or biology, but being more facilitators of learning, saying to kids, right, this is where you can go online to get those learning resources. This is where you get open educational resources. This is where the educational materials are. And this is how you use those materials. And we refer to younger people now as digital natives. But just because you're a digital native doesn't mean you're digitally literate, especially if most of your time filters down to social media, gaming and videos. And the facilitating role of the teacher is to turn that digital nativeness into digital literacy. But as I say, in terms of those competencies, I believe the Minister can speak to better than me. So
true. And I think the question still comes back to you, Honourable Minister. How is this government rethinking education?
Sorry?
How is this government, the government of the Republic of Zambia, rethinking the education?
Well, right now, my teams are trying to look at the curriculum, just to make it if you like, competitive in the 21st century. I mean, we no longer want to be telling kids so that you learn, get a degree and go and work. Okay? We want kids who will be entrepreneurs as well. So those skills, we want to tailor the curriculum that way, so that they are able to know that they have to think in order to get something, rather than to say 1 + 1 = 2. Everybody will do that. So how do you make sense out of that 2 that you've got? Where are you taking that 2? So this is why there was a period where children were doing either they are in academic class or in a class that he was just talking about agriculture.
Yeah.
You'll be amazed how many billion of cubic liters of water, okay? More than 90 billion cubic liters of water, underground water, remain unutilized in this country. And more than 60 billion cubic liters of rainwater goes to waste. And then you are called you are a hungry country. I think it's not acceptable. All right? We have good soils, we have got a good climate, so that when we are teaching these kids, they must not say that when they go in the field, they are not being dirty. They are creating wealth. I was telling the kids who are now in aquaculture in many secondary schools.
So could you give an example of agriculture, Honourable Minister? Because I think at the time that I was in school personally, when you are punished, you'd be told to go in the field and do some agri work. That was a form of punishment when you're going to do agri work, and not knowing that that is where money is.
Exactly.
And precisely where my question lies, Minister. How then is this new Dawn government rethinking education? And you speak of the good policies that you're working on in the background, but then the question is, when do we begin to see these being done in various schools across the country?
Well, like I said, we are ongoing. I mean, we are not just like all of a sudden something is happening. We are also trying to do mindset change. All right? We were tuned. For example, if you say you are punished to go in the field, it is a child who's to think that they are being punished, except that teachers thought they were punishing. But yet, they are training somebody to know that the suit that you are wearing, somebody was on the field to cultivate cotton. Okay? So if we start thinking that way, so that this is not dead, okay? Go, you learn your aquaculture. Eh? They are now keeping fish. So I went to a secondary school where I said, do you know that when you finish school, go and do this, all right? So that you do not only want to become a banker or a tailor or a bank manager. It is for you to take that money using this. So don't envy bankers per se. Just say that I want to go and bank the money. All right? So we need to change that because we are tailor-made to think that only white-collar job pays. But our children must now start learning it. And this is why we want to do a lot of things in early childhood. The kids must grow with that. They must appreciate. If you saw what happens at Pembe Girls Secondary School, right? I was amazed. Those are girls. They keep cattle. They are the ones who even go to inject when it is time to give some drugs. They don't buy chicken because they rear chicken. They are the ones who do it hands-on, right? Cabbage, they grow their own cabbage, so they don't buy. And when you see them, the kids look well-fed. Okay, then I said to the head teacher, can I go and see the academic results? Super. So I know we can manage it. We just need to shift a little bit of some change of mind, including our own teachers. You will be amazed this year when we had this junior engineering jets. The things that they were bringing, amazing, coming from secondary school. Yes.
One of my friends asked me that I should ask you, Minister, that does the ministry plan on scrapping off, some courses in the near future? Because right about now, Minister, each and every year, universities and both public and private universities are graduating thousands, of these graduates that are still waiting to be employed. We have now over a lot of teachers. Even now, this year, teachers will be graduating. Even next year, teachers will be graduating. But then we already have, these and many other teachers in schools. Are we beginning, is this government seeing or beginning to implement policies that will begin to respond to the challenges we are passing through today?
Well, I mean, in the first place, I think we are talking about teachers. We still have a deficit. In real terms, even if they are not employed, we have a deficit in this country. And John, you'll be amazed if the president did not announce about employing 30,000 teachers. In the next 20 or 30 years, we are going to have a huge crisis. The real crisis which would have not permitted us to start now looking for teachers outside Zambia. Because many of our children and parents were discouraged to take their children to education, to go and be trained as teachers. I found out just when I was appointed, because I started going around. We were going to hit, this is what I was used to tell the president, say that you have solved a problem for 2 other presidents. After you have gone, we are going to have a huge crisis. But immediately it was stated that 30,000 teachers, education colleges are now saying that they are now receiving applications. People still want to be teachers. So if we had our way, and if we were actually employing teachers, or even at 10,000 for 10 years, we would have wiped all of them. They could have been teaching. But this 30,000 helped the country in the next 20 years. And so I really need to say this so that people understand this.
The background is the fact that Zambia has got many problems. Are we training these students to respond to the challenges that Zambia is passing through today? I think that was where my question was bordering.
This is why I'm saying that one of the things that we need to do is mindset. And we want it to start from early childhood. As people grow. Because you can not only, J.B. Watson said, give me a dozen kids and I will make one a thief, the other one a policeman, the other one what? At that early stage, we need to impart some knowledge so that they grow with it. All right? Every year the president goes to parliament to go and espouse the principles and values of our country. We need to do that in early childhood so that they start with that. Kids must know that corruption exists and that if this is not yours, don't take it.
Let me come back to you, John. Now, the calling for innovation will require sustainable funding for experimental purposes without guarantee of success, obviously. What sort of funding will help to sustain these undertakings, especially with the coming up of this particular summit?
Yeah, that's a good question, Andrew. Funding is at the heart of it. I think the better way to refer to funding is actually access to capital. That's what matters. In terms of education ministries and what's been happening in Zambia, as the minister refers, another 30,000 teachers, and the training them, the quality of teaching. But it's no different here. Across the continent, 85–90% of a Ministry of Education's budget is wages. It's just the way it is. But what's the answer in terms of that financial side? Well, the answer is whole government approach. The minister referred to it here. If you're going to have this innovation, you have the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Technology and Science, the Smart Zambia, the stakeholders across government. That whole government approach will provide the opportunities. So then how do you bring I won't say funding, I'll say access to capital, because that's what matters. You want the young people in Zambia to be innovators and entrepreneurs, and they themselves, and no one should really be sitting there expecting handouts. Okay, it's a responsibility of government, especially to look after the most vulnerable in society and look after those who need the most needs. And those who have less opportunities, while building greater equality in society. But if you have had that university education, and if you do have those skill sets, then, and you want to go out and build an application for agriculture, an application for healthcare, you want to build an online trading portal, the minister referred to youth innovators we have at Summit that we're featuring. They don't want handouts. They just want the opportunity. So the duty of the government, in my view, is to create the enabling environment, the economic environment, liberalisation of some parts of the market economy, tax incentives that you know, don't to impinge on, especially small business. When you start small business, the last thing you need to be is pinned down by heavy tax burdens, and then having access to capital. And for me, this is the big one, because I was speaking to somebody yesterday. You know, $15 trillion goes through the New York Stock Exchange every single day, every day. Just in trading and foreign exchange, investment, but it's a vast exchange with vast companies that you can invest in stocks and shares. And there's a Lusaka stock exchange as well. Now, maybe this is an opportunity to be innovative in policy here, because access to capital is the key. If countries, and I think maybe we refer back to the great Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, who, when he talked about the independence of African nations, the 54 nations, and I think, I can't remember the name of the president at the time of Central African Republic, he said to Nkrumah, he said, how are we going to compete on our own? And that's why Kwame Nkrumah was so strong on African unity and countries coming together. Because if you then imagine, okay, what about you know, the Kenya? I don't know the makeup of the Lusaka Stock Exchange, sorry, but I can tell you off the top of my head that the Kenyan Stock Exchange, over 50% of that is one company, Safaricom. I can tell you that over 50% of what's traded on the Nigerian Stock Exchange is Dangote, one company. But imagine if Kenya and Zambia and Tanzania and all your friendly brother and sister countries come together. Well, stock exchanges, for starters, don't need physical locations anymore. We've got the digital world we live in. And there was an African capital market. There was an opportunity for young people to access capital. Now, I know that the government for young innovators here has like the NTCB that is building up funds. But really, through capital markets, through angel investors, this is where the young people, as I say, they don't want handouts. They just want to know, I can set up a business easily. It doesn't cost much. I can go and get clients, but I need a bit of money to start up for the first 6 months or 18 months of my business. And how do I get that money? That's the big, and you say I'm a successful businessman. I don't know. I've had more failures than successes, a lot more. And the number one, for a small, medium-sized enterprise, an SME, the number one problem child is cash flow. That's what kills you, cash flow. Now, if you can provide access to funding, it's not in the form of handouts, even in innovative types of business loans. Maybe they're guaranteed or the low interest. But we do live in a world of relatively low interest, almost free money, 0 to 3% in wider capital markets, and I do believe that that's the opportunity that should be looked at, and not looked at it from a point of view of just funding handouts. And young entrepreneurs, they don't want that. They want to know they can do it freely.
So certainly, when they come for the summit and showcase, there's some form of well, I don't want to. You give an opportunity for these young innovators to access capital.
No, well, I'm not giving them the opportunity. We're just showcasing them. But maybe they will. So I'll wind it back a bit. We had the last one we had was in Ghana in 2019. We were due to come here in Zambia in 2020, and then a little virus came along and messed us all up. But to the delight of us all, the New Dawn government was committed to the continuity of government and the Memorandum of Understanding to have Innovation Africa here. And previously in Ghana we had, it was actually the Ghanaian government, they had Geek Girls Ghana they wanted. And we wanted to do the same here, but not make it a competition, but more a showcase. So my company, we just invested in a hub. So the venue is the Lusaka International Convention Centre on the Bonanza, near the airport. So it's a huge, big venue, and we built a hub for the young innovators. I don't know who they are. It's not for me to choose. So the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Technology and Science, ZICTA, NTCB, they've contributed a few from each, as well as, and I know that out of State House we have Zambia's Youth Innovation Agenda, and they will meet we've talked about those companies, the Microsofts, Intels and HP. They'll meet them there, and what we'll do on the final day is we'll have at least sort of 9 or 10 of them present on stage. The respective Zambian stakeholders will make a few comments, and maybe better than getting funding, they'll meet future clients. Once you work with, say, Microsoft, and you're one of the 5,000 companies on the Microsoft approved applications network, and you're on the directory, there you go. I would actually say, in terms of funding, you need an entirely separate event for angel investors. That's a different thing.
But to Minister, what is a word for frustrated innovators out there, and believing keenly that after this summit, perhaps maybe something good will come out of it? What is your word to these young innovators that are very excited about this particular summit and are hoping that finally life will be brought into their innovations?
Well, they shouldn't be frustrated. I know certain things can be frustrating in life, but there's always a chance that you are given. I mean, this summit will show them, say that even Microsoft started from somewhere. All right? Just that is motivation enough. They didn't just, John didn't just wake up and said, let me start doing this. No. Okay? He has just said that sometimes you fail, but you stand, you continue. So now that the environment is conducive, I want to believe that we are putting up an environment which is conducive for free thinking. Okay? If you do not do that again in a country, you will not have innovative people if they cannot think freely. They must, even universities, this is what I usually encourage universities myself to say, that universities must be citadels of innovation. Let universities free to think. Then you know them. And then today we just also want to come and show, say that universities must link with industry. I think that it wasn't there. They do their part, industry must be interested. I went to Warwick, I think sometime this year. The University of Warwick, they are making car batteries, right? They link with industry, and then they go and do their testing here, what and what. But industry also is interested in universities. So all this will culminate into the young people coming to know, say that yes, there could be frustrations on the way, but still more, you must be determined.
I agree, Honourable Minister, that the environment is conducive for people to freely think. But like John said, is our environment economically conducive for these young innovators to access finance? With young innovators, I'll give examples of Florence Mwansa, Mulenga rather. We have Mwangala and many other innovators in this country that are doing amazing works. How is access to finance for these young people to be supported? But before, as you answer that, Minister, we have Leonard calling us on the program. Thank you so much, Leonard, for coming through.
Yes, Mr. Andrew Jeffa. Afternoon.
Good evening to you.
Good evening to you too, sir.
Kindly go ahead with your contribution.
Yes, I want to contribute. I'm watching the program. Yeah, but it's not political. I just want to comment this from what our Minister of Education is saying, Siyakalima. Yes, my contribution this is that the thing which was promised to be done for us, they are not been happening, especially to our...
Leonard Chiengi, I would advise you to contribute in line with what we are discussing tonight. We're looking at education and innovation. Do you have any question in context with the subject that we have tonight?
All right. Okay. I can say the European government is...
Oh dear. That's the 7-second delay.
So, Andrew, the question that you asked, I think that at the back of his mind, the president, when he was putting up the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises, I think that is probably what he was actually looking for. All these innovators can try and check what they could do with the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises. So I think that could also be one of those ways where they can deal with the, like I said, capital. Yeah.
Let's talk about the event, a little while before we can get back to innovation and technology. How prepared are we, to host in this summit?
I think we are very prepared. We've put in place almost everything, and because we were not just we are working on Smart Zambia was there, Cabinet Office was there, my ministry was there, Technology and Science were there, Commerce were there. So it was a cog of people coming together, and some cooperating partners like John, they're here. So I think that it could be spectacular, and there will be a lot of learning. I can just foresee, right, when everybody comes together, they're sharing ideas, what has worked in this part of Africa, what are you doing yourselves, and also to be able to probably will find answers for what you're asking. For these young entrepreneurs, for these young innovators.
Let's pick a call up from Chirundu. Solomon Jombe. Thank you so much, Solomon, for coming. Can you go ahead with your contribution?
Good evening, Andrew.
Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Honorable Siyakalima.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Good evening. The other, the name has gone.
John.
It's John.
John.
Good evening,
Honorable. My name is Solomon, calling from Chirundu.
Okay, Solomon.
We are appreciating the works that you are doing in the ministry. I just want to find out on the technology which the Minister of Education is trying to embrace. What is it that you are going to do to the curriculum that we have now? Is it buying into the system that is being introduced, or what is the relationship with the curriculum that we have today? And what are the changes that you're proposing? Looking at the innovation, I don't see any innovation in the ministry. Let's say technology-wise, we are low. So what are the changes in curriculum that the ministry will introduce? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Solomon, for coming through. Minister?
Yeah, thank you, Solomon. Like I said earlier, my team is trying now to review the curriculum, just to set it for the 21st century. And so I think many of these things will come up. How do we do a transformative school system? So many of these things, I think, will be embedded inside there. Like I said, in most of the rural areas where connectivity has been a problem, and hence our cooperating partners coming, and as I said, the president talked to so many people in terms of connectivity. So I'm quite sure we could be running like Rwanda as well. I mean, the goodwill from the president is there. That is all we require. Yeah. Like I tell people, I cannot be president. I cannot be like President Hakainde Hichilema. But as we are his lieutenants, we must emulate him. Okay? We must be able to do certain things to run around in order to catch up. Because I think we are too far away. So in 1 year, I'm happy how far we have done our school system. And I think people are responding now. I mean, I have already said that 10 years perhaps could have been bad enough. But my teachers, head teachers, everyone is now responding. I can see in our universities, they are also responding. We are trying to see how we can be linking industry and universities. If
I come to you, John, and ask you, who is expected to be in attendance, and just the process of verifying those who can attend. We have Adam Piri calling us from within Osaka. Thank you so much, Mr. Piri, for calling us. Go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening, Honorable, and good evening, Mr. John.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Adam.
Yes, I think my concern with our curriculum is the issue that we have put a premium on English as a language. So we take some subjects that are of innovative. People take them to be not as serious. For example, take agriculture. We know that the backdrop of our economy is more on agriculture. I know mining is doing very well, but mining is a depleting asset. But you find agriculture in some schools, it's optional. But we put a premium very much on English, that a person should pass English. But I don't know what developmental issue English has, for example, to bring development to a nation like ours. When we talk of, so I think that's my concern. So as we take innovation, I think innovation is very important. We should try to put premium on the innovations as opposed to, like I said, I don't see any innovative with English as a language because this is just Chinese are developing with their Chinese language. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Adam Pure. I think maybe you should put this to an end, Honorable Minister. Obviously, when you're going into university, the prerequisite for you to enter university or college in Zambia, you need to have merit in English and mathematics. I think the question is asking is why have we placed premium, especially on English, as a prerequisite, especially for entry, into the universities and colleges?
Well, English is our medium of instruction, and we use English in mathematics, we use English in science, we use English in biology, in agriculture science. So you cannot, if you like, you must pass the language of instruction. It's just no more that way. I mean, if we were teaching in Bemba, you must pass Bemba, isn't it? If you are teaching in Luvale, you must pass Luvale, because you are being instructed in Luvale. Maybe the biggest problem is that, because now he's talking about China, they don't learn English, but...
Well, maybe if I contribute, maybe I have a natural bias here as an English speaker, but we have to be realistic. And there's a huge in the 20th century influence of the US, but it is the international language of business as well. It's not just, if you, even the French and the Italians, they complain at the moment how there is a domination of online resources, educational, it's in the English language. You mentioned China. As I mentioned that I worked previously in Iraq for a bit, and some of the Iraqis there who didn't have very good English were trying to say, I've got to learn this language, I've got to learn it. How are you learning? Oh, I'm watching movies to try and learn. And, even before the internet, when I started in business and we were making phone calls to get customers around the world, it's the one language in which the people who you're selling your services to, they would understand and you can do business in. Now, we say there's, China at the moment, of course, it's a huge, the growth we've seen in the last 20 years, 30 years in China. But I remember in the late 80s and early 90s, everybody said, you've got to learn Japanese. When Japan was the second largest economy, remember, in the world. Yep. And nobody's saying that now. But the fact remains, both in educational resources and the technical research papers and scientific papers and engineering papers, they are, there is there are many languages, of course, but there is a predominance, and especially in the world of business, it is the... Sure. I have a prejudice. I shouldn't answer too much. But if you go out in the world...
You should have declared interest.
Yeah, I have a declared interest. But if you go out in the world and you want to do business, and you want to do business across Africa, you want to trade with your African... one of my favourite speakers in Africa, Pielo Lumumba, who talks a lot, his concern about African development is only 15% of African trade is between each country. And he's quite right. There needs to be more trade between African countries. Well, how many local dialects and languages are in Africa? Thousands. But, okay, English, French and a bit of Portuguese does predominate. But if you want international business, I have my declared interest.
But back to you, John. let's talk about when this summit is happening and who is expected to be in attendance and who is allowed, from the general public. Is the general public allowed to also be in
Yeah,
attendance?
it is fully subscribed now, and I have to. So apologies to anybody in the general public, and might be watching saying, "I want to go," and we still get the odd inquiry coming through our website. How do I come in? It is full. There's just a real capacity thing there. Maybe I can make a comment on that going forward. It's not just about this, what we're doing next week, it's about the follow-up.
Right.
And the opportunity. I came here I know Livingston has quite a good long history of doing conferences and meetings, but I came here in 2020 when the Zambian government wanted to host this, Innovation Africa. It's the 10th anniversary, remember, and so it meant a lot to me. It's sort of my baby kind of thing. And I came to Lusaka, I looked around at a few of the hotels and I went, oh, we've got a problem here, they're not big enough. And then a friend of mine said, let's go out, they were building, it was just a building site on the Bonanza estate. But since then, of course, we've had a pandemic interrupt. There's been a new Mulungushi built. There's been the convention centre on the Bonanzas, it's huge with a hotel. And it's an entertainment centre as well. It's not just for conferences. My belief, and I hope we can come back again a lot starting from next year. I would love African Brains to come back here and do a lot more. I think the actual conference meetings and incentive economy is a huge opportunity for Zambia as well. It's a well-established tourist economy, but you put alongside that the conference economy and the business meetings economy, that you can easily add 10-12% to your growth with that. There's a huge, and you bring in foreign visitors, you bring in foreign currency. And I would love this is a Pan-African event, and you did ask the minister how ready is the government. The government's super ready, and I have to thank all of the stakeholders, his ministry and those other ministries mentioned, technology and science and smart zoning. They've worked hard, they've done an amazing job. We deliver, the head of state will be opening it on Wednesday. So a big thanks, I'm very humbled. And I'm also, I really love the feeling of this country. It's just, it's intangible, and I would love it as a company, as an organizer, as an investor. I would love to come back here regularly. And now you have the capacity. You have the capacity to have these kind of scale of events, every other week. And then we can have one open to the public. And then the market's there. The market's there. I'd love to do more. I do apologise to anybody. We're full now. We're a few days before. But a big thanks to the government of Zambia for being so motivated and well organised.
What is the call to action as we close, Honourable Douglas Siyakalima? What is a call to action even after the event happens?
Yeah, like John has said, we'll be following up. We don't just, this one is a different event. It's not a usual conference where people come and present papers and then they leave it. It is an in thing to be able to go around those tables I was talking about, all right, sharing ideas, and then we'll remain ourselves to say that, so what next as a Zambia? My colleagues who are involved in all this, and this is what is more important, is for us to network, okay? This time around, no one will say that, me, I'm on the education. Have you now seen? There's technology, all right? So, my colleague in the Ministry of Technology and Science, we are colleagues, okay? We must see how we can dovetail. When I was talking about agriculture science here, so it means I'm already connected to this.
Yeah.
I was talking, we were talking about scaling up nutrition. I have to talk to the Minister of Health. So the entire system of government is a cog, it's a machine which feeds into one another. So for us, it will be after this summit, what do we do? Because we don't want John to come here after, if it is 10 years. He says, I left the way I left you.
It's the follow-up. The follow-up does matter.
So I think for us, it is a follow-up. Where do we go next? Like for me, I always tell people to say that, how do we want to see our education system in the next 40 years? Planning for 40 years, you visualize, okay? I mean, if you go to Finland, they will tell you that they had to build the education system for over 40 years to be where it is today. So even ourselves, like John was saying, we must leap forward where we are lagging behind, especially in technology. So how do we now connect education for innovation?
For innovation.
Yes.
How do we connect education for innovation? You've traveled across the globe, for you, John. What are some of the key lessons you think, particularly Zambia, can learn from developed countries when it comes to innovation and technology?
Well, I've especially travelled a lot across Africa and the Middle East, and I've seen lessons. Well, the first one on technology and educational technology. The first lesson, don't just buy it for the sake of it being technology and put it in place. And in the case of education, don't do it ignorant of how important that the teacher still, and quality teaching remains at the heart of education. And in fact, inputting education technology into your schools and your education system without the engagement and the motivation and the new skills and competencies with teachers is much more bound to fail. And lessons I've seen, you know, we have to be open here, and I've seen it in other African countries. I won't name names, but the political pressure to suddenly buy 100,000 tablets or 50,000 laptops for teachers and students, and they got the budget to do it, and they go and buy it. But it hasn't been done in planning the curriculum. It hasn't been done with the connectivity. The school has only got 5 meg connectivity. It hasn't been done with the teachers being trained on how to, in their own digital skills and competencies. And many lessons have been learned, and I think when we talk about the largest digital literacy program in Africa has been done by Kenya. And they invested, the first 220 million was back in 2016. It's about 900,000 tablets for kids, about 150,000 laptops for teachers. They connected 28,000 schools. That's great, that's good. But I've heard many of the Kenyan officials say after how what we've learned is how much we should have done the teacher training first, and we need to lay the groundwork. And I think those lessons, you can learn more lessons from mistakes than successes, I would say, and maybe look at where the implementation of technology in ICT in education has been done just as a knee-jerk reaction because we've got to have ICT for education, where it hasn't been done as part of a proper policy planning that involves the teachers, the curriculum, and the education infrastructure, and of course, the connectivity of the schools.
African Brains CEO, John Glassey, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Honorable Douglas Siyakalima, Minister responsible for education, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, we've been looking at education and innovation. My guests this evening have been Minister responsible for education, Honorable Douglas Siyakalima, as well as African Brains CEO, John Glassey. My name is Andrew Mwansa on behalf of Costa. Mwansa was sitting on behalf of. Thank you so much. See you again next week on Costa.
Costa was brought to you by FQM Trident Limited, a subsidiary of First Quantum Minerals Limited.
Come on, let's go. Shake and sip. Get up and show me how to shake and sip. Get up off your feet. Shake things up with Shake and Sip Fruity Milk. Shake and sip. Go, go, go. Every moment you be in the zone. Shake it up, shake and sip is the way to Shake and Sip, when fresh meets fruity.
For the kind of entertainment that grabs all your attention, we got you with MTN Netflix bundles. Just dial *117# and select Home and MiFi bundles to purchase Netflix bundles for your router or MiFi.
Hello, no one is available to take your call. Please leave a message after the tone.
Mr. Tembo, I have the building material has come in, so we are just waiting for the money. Mr. Tembo, I know you are there. Can you just pick up?
Daniel, I've just got off the phone with ZNBS and I found out that they have amazing loans for the building materials that you wanted. So just head down to their offices and find out more.
With ZNBS, you can now get a building materials loan at competitive interest rates. All you need to apply is a ZNBS salary account or a stop order account. For details, visit any of our branches. Call us on 0211-228146 or 230896 or email mortgage@znbs.co.zm. Or you can visit our website on www.znbs.co.zm. Like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter. Terms and conditions apply. Zambia National Building Society. Shelter through savings.